Welcome to another Pewdiepie keyboard video. Remember this board? Well, Cyraghost has it on sale currently, so it's only $117, and I was thinking, for this price point, it's not too bad. So, somebody new to the hobby who doesn't know anything, or is looking to improve this and make it sound and feel better, what could they do? The following 4 modifications I list. I have all the stuff in the description. I'm not affiliated with anything. I don't get a kickback or anything. It's just the stuff I use to do the things in the modifications. So let's make this board sound good, and ask any questions, leave comments, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Thank you. So we took our board from sounding like this to sounding like this. So, this is the first mod. Put it first because it's the simplest, but also I kind of forgot to do it during the initial stream. So what you see on screen is the key company's stabilizer grease syringe kit, and basically all you have to do is like pop off your stabilizers, and in the back of the stabilizer, just inject some lube into it. And that helps it sound really good, eliminates some of the rattle. It's not always 100%. Usually I do this with the other stabilizer mod that we have, the Band-Aid mod, which is coming up. But the 2 of these combined usually gets rid of all like stabilizer rattle unless you have really, really bad stabs. And these stabs aren't that bad. So I wanted to highlight the spacebar. It's a little hollow, but you can see the little lines there. If you really are bothered by how the spacebar sounds, you can probably do some kind of janky fixes like filling it with Elmer's glue, which sounds crazy, but actually can add a little bit of weight and dampen the sound. So you can see I got my needle nose pliers here and my syringe, and basically I am just lifting the insert of the stem and filling it with lube. Then doing the same for the other side, and just giving it a couple up and downs to make sure that no lube is outside of the stems, but also that it just sounds good and feels good. I think I'm trying to show the back of the stem here. I'm not really sure. What an idiot. So, because I said the back of the stem, you'll notice the orientation of the stabilizer on the spacebar is opposite. This isn't always the case for every keyboard. Pretty much every keyboard is a little different, but yeah, same deal. I'm just injecting lube into the back of the stabilizer to coat the wire inside there to keep the rattle down. And just like that, we're done the first modification. Super easy. You can find the links for where I got the syringe from in the description below. Our second modification will be adding sound dampening foam or material to the back of the case. So step 1 to getting to the back of the case is taking off all the keycaps, switches, unscrewing the plate, and then separating the plate and PCB from the case. You can see here I'm slowly taking off all the keycaps, and I'm going to keep them just above where I'm working in the same order I took them off in, just to save some time trying to figure out where they go. A lot of people just take a photo of the keyboard before they take the keycaps out. Both work, whatever works for you. So through the power of editing, we have a different angle and all of the keycaps are out. I'm cleaning it while I can. The different camera angle is because my nice camera died during my stream, and I would reset it a few times during this 6.5 hour stream to modify this keyboard. So the plate is all cleaned, and we got all the switches out. Now we're trying to take out the plate and PCB. There's a magnet at the top of the case that keeps the plate and PCB in place outside of the screws. So make sure you remove all the screws, and then you should be able to just pop out the PCB from the case. Also, I'll note you can see the battery attached to the case here, and a cable that goes from the PCB to the battery. So keep that in mind as you add material to the back of the case. You're going to have to fish this wire through, but also be mindful of the Bluetooth switch on the back, as initially when I put in my foam, I didn't cut out a space for the switch in the back. So initially when I tried to remove the cable from the PCB, I'm showing here that an RGB light actually prevents the cable attached to the PCB from coming out. Instead of risking ripping it or pulling off a RGB light, I just disconnected the other connector into the battery. It was a lot easier. That's a good thing to keep in mind when you're trying to take this board apart. So for sound dampening material, there's a whole bunch of choices. I think the most common is polyfill, which is like $6 for a whole bunch of it. Next is like shelf lining, which I was holding up earlier, which is relatively cheap. For 20 bucks you get like a lot. But what I'm going with is something called Isolate. It's a sorobathane, I'm probably saying it wrong, acoustic and vibration dampening film. It's like sticky to the touch, but you can cut it pretty easily, and it worked really good for me. It's about $27 when I made this video. You notice it comes with some film that you have to peel off, and you're gonna have to cut it. The scissors I initially started using were really bad for cutting this, so it was like cutting all kinds of jagged. But the good thing is you don't see this once it's in the back of the case. So I'm using cuticle scissors, I think they're called, to cut holes in the back of the film I'm using to stick out the legs of the back of the case. Also, I need to make sure that my film is flat enough so that there's no interference with the plate or PCB and allowing the magnet to snap it into place, and so the screws can reach it. You can see me trying to make sure the film is all flat. I have the wire out from the PCB, or from the battery, ready to connect to the PCB, and this is what it looks like when it's all ready to go. Pretty janky, but you know, your results may vary. So that's it for the second mod. Now on to the third mod, the Band-Aid mod. So in my initial stream for modifying this board, I ended up doing the Band-Aid mod before the dampening foam. And as I was revising this video, I wanted to do an order of how difficult each mod is to do, which is why this is following the dampening foam. Also, just to keep in mind, the PCB and plate have some foam sandwiched between them, and there's one loose piece by the spacebar. Make sure you don't lose that as you take this PCB and plate apart. Make sure to save your screws from your stabilizers because it would stink to lose them. So we're separating the PCB from the plate here, just removing these like very flat kind of screws. Don't lose them. Also, make sure to separate the PCB and the plate before working on the stabilizers, as you need the extra room to actually apply the fabric band-aids and do all the mods. So now I'm using a paper towel and just wiping off any grease or lube that was on the wires initially. There's very little, but some of the stabilizer wires actually did have some lube on them. If you've never taken apart a stabilizer, it's pretty easy. You just turn the housing of the stabilizer just towards the center of the wire, and it should just snap off without any issues or breaking anything. So this is a stabilizer insert. I'm holding it up to the camera to show that it's actually flat. Sometimes these have legs that are like kind of perforated in a way, so they stick out and you have to like clip them. These don't have that, which is really nice, so it's like one extra step you don't have to worry about. But if you're working on a different keyboard that might not have as nice of stabilizers, you might have to be aware of that and clip them. There's a lot of better videos about doing this mod, like Tejo Types. I'll link that in the description below, or maybe pop it up on the video right now. And I'm trying to show the orientation of where the wire goes into the insert, like which way the insert should face when adding it into the housing. But really, you'll just try it once on your own, you'll figure it out. I'm not 100% sure what I'm trying to show the camera here. It's just a stabilizer with the insert inside of it. Something about the orientation and which way faces the wire, but like I said, you just need to trial and error it out, and it's not too big of a deal. If it's not right, it just won't go into the housing. So once you have your stabilizers apart, it's a good idea to check to make sure all the wires are as straight as they can be. A lot of people just use their cell phone screen. Thankfully, these wires are straight because I'm pretty lousy at getting these perfect. Now for applying lube to the stabilizers, I just have Krytox 205 grade 0 lube. Links for it are in the description, but you can pick it up at any keyboard place. And basically, I'm just lubing the inside housing and then the stem insert, like all around the outside of it. And then I add a little additional lube to just the part of the wire that snaps into the stabilizer. Again, if you've never done this, I can't recommend enough Tejo Type's Band-Aid mod video. It's like a tutorial on how to do this. It's basically where I learned how to do this. It's just super good, and we'll walk you through this whole process. So here I am cutting the adhesive part of a fabric Band-Aid. Basically, you just cut it into straight strips that are about the same width as the insert of the stabilizers, like bottom part. And then you can just fold these and cut them in half, because it's all the actual Band-Aid you need to apply the Band-Aid mod to your PCB. So here I am, I've applied 2 Band-Aid strips between the 2 connectors for the stabilizer. I'm trying to recenter it. I had so much trouble, for whatever reason, removing the non-sticky stuff on the Band-Aid to try to get it in place. It took me forever. For whatever reason during the stream, I just couldn't get it right. So this might seem a little weird, but I have an ear pick kit. It's just a metal ear pick kit. It's like a little scoop, and I'm using it to apply dielectric grease to the Band-Aids that we put on our PCB. You can use just a brush or Q-tip or whatever works for you. This is just what I use. Now we have the stabilizer wire. We're just adding it, just dipping it into this dielectric grease, trying to coat the end of it. We just want enough to kind of mute the rattle of the wire as it like moves inside of the housing or inside of the insert. So I'm just putting it inside of this stabilizer, turning it around and like making sure the dielectric grease stays inside the housing of the stabilizer. Now we'll just do that to every single stabilizer on our board. Also here I'm just applying some lube to the part of the wire that just clips into the stabilizer housing, just for keeping it smooth. So here's an optional step. It has a silly name called plugging the butt. And all this is just applying dielectric grease to the bottom of the stabilizer to fill any gaps. You don't want to add too much dielectric grease because it might make the stabilizer feel mushy, but if you just add the right amount plus the fabric of the Band-Aid, it'll just eliminate almost all wire rattle. All right, so far so good. We got our stabilizers all lubed up, sounded nice. Now next we insert the foam over the PCB, and that's followed by the plate, which is what our switches snap into. Once you have everything aligned up the way you like it, it's a good idea to snap some switches into place as we put it into the keyboard case. So usually just putting 1 switch in each corner would probably be good enough. You might also want to take this time to test the sound of the stabilizer by just putting in a switch and a key and just like tapping it a few times to make sure it sounds good before, committing to screwing everything into place. So put some keys in, tapped it out, stabilizers sound great. Now I just plugged in to make sure it's still working. Thankfully it is. And that brings us to our next step, and the most long and time-consuming process that almost every keyboard person has done at least once. Okay, there's no easy way to say this. This is time-consuming. So the stream I got this footage from, lubing and filling my switches was probably well over 3 hours of it. it takes forever. It's not super complicated, it's just time consuming. So what you see there is a lubing station. The one I got is from Glorious. The lube is on the top there. I got my bag for bag lubing springs, which is a quick way of lubing all of your springs. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Speaking of springs, I'm going to do some spring swapping. So the default Gateron Reds are a little light for my taste. So I have these Cannon Keys slow springs that are just a little bit heavier than the normal. This is the only thing I'm changing about the switch other than just adding lubricant. You could keep the same springs and follow all these steps and just ignore this spring swap. So now we have a switch opener here. And all you do is just align the switch correctly, push down, and it pops open. Then you can separate the parts. So I'm putting the stems onto my lubing station. I'm putting the top housing in one bowl, the bottom housing in another, and I'm putting the springs somewhere else because I'm going to replace them all with my Cannon Key springs. So here I have my trusty bag I do all my bag lubing with. And I just add a couple drops of lubricant oil to lube up the springs, and then you just add a little bit of air and you shake the bag as hard as you can for as long as you can. Basically, you just need to give it light shakes for a few minutes to make sure that all the springs are as evenly coated with lube as you possibly can. Then when you're done, typically it's good to just lay them out on a paper towel to get rid of the excess oil if there is any. And then you can just start applying them into your switches. Shake, 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 shake. So yeah, this process can be time consuming. I sped up this video 10 times the speed. It still looks pretty slow, but you can see my workflow here. For some reason I'm showing spring wobble right there, but essentially I'm just separating the parts of the switches so that it'll be easier to get all of them lubed as quick as possible and back together. Sorry to jump in here. I just wanted to note, right now I'm lubing the base of the switches. Make sure you follow that up by filming the base of the switches with the switch films that we're applying. I accidentally put all the springs in and then realized I didn't apply the films, and it was just a nightmare adding them. So this is the second batch, and you can see I'm correctly doing that. Anyway, back to it. Hey guys, Andy from the future. I just got done editing. Hopefully you like it. Let me know if you have any comments, questions, or whatever in the comments. Everything should be in the description. And thanks for watching. This was the most difficult video I've ever made on my channel. And I hope to do more like it, but we'll see. Thank you. Bye. Now the sound test in all of its glory. Thank you for watching. So the following four modifications. So for the